Hello, Year 3 and Year 4. It's Mr. Bowes with Maths on Wednesday, the 3rd of January. No, 3rd of February, in fact. 3rd of February 2021. Starting off with marking the work from yesterday. Here is the answers for the starter. We had the jugs of water on the screen, you might remember. These are the answers for 1 to 6. Mark those now. Pause the video to do that. And I hope you got in the kitchen and found some jugs that you could fill with water and did that safely and carefully with the permission of an adult to find out more about capacity. Capacity being how much you can fit inside, how much liquid, for example, you can fit inside something. These are the answers for the other work that you did yesterday to do with tenths, all less than 1. So here we have the spicy work, spicier, and finally the spiciest. Pause the video to mark that now. Okay, remember once you've marked your work that you're going to be trying to see if you got something wrong, why you got it wrong. Okay, so always look for those patterns and mistakes and you can see how you would get it right another time. Today's learning objective is to use hundredths. So we've used tenths and now the learning objective is to use hundredths. Date today 03/02/21, so please put the learning objective and date on a fresh page in your book. Pause the video to do that now. Okay, so hundredths. Let's just think about hundredths and the word 100. There's some concrete examples, some real things where we have hundredths. If you have, for example, let me get a pen up. If you have, for example, a pound, 1/100th of that, 1/100th of a pound, is 1 penny. Yeah, because there are 100 pennies in 1 pound, so 1/100th of a pound is a penny. So if I was to write 1 pence, but write it as a pound, put the pound sign, 0, decimal point, nothing in the tenths column, but I'm going to have 1 in the hundredths column. So that is how we would write 1/100th. No ones, no tenths, and this column is the hundredths. We have centimeters and meters. A meter is a really long thing. Mr. Bowes is nearly 2 meters tall. So as you can imagine, a meter is quite a long thing. And a centimeter is just 1/100th of a meter. So if I had something which is a centimeter, which is about the width of my thumb, maybe my finger, that's a centimeter from one side over to the other. If I was to write that down in meters, it would be 0.01 meters because it is 1/100th of a meter. So there's a couple of different ways of thinking about hundredths. Let's see what we've got to do today. Okay, we have some number lines and the question is asking us to complete the number lines below. So how would you complete the number lines? We can see that the numbers lines start with 0 and they go to 1. Both of them start at 0 and they go up to 1. So anything in the middle around here is going to be less than 1. Yeah, anything along here in the number line, they're all less than 1. So how do we complete them? Let's look at the pattern. 0, 1/10, 2/10. Another way of saying these numbers would be 1/10, 2/10. I can see that the 10 is staying the same. Perhaps it would be 3/10. Is this going to work with our 6/10 here? Let's have a look. 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. It works. So we're going to have 7/10, 8/10, and 9/10. Got to put the fraction underneath in each case. And if we were to write the number of tenths here, remember, it would be 10 tenths. because that would be a whole one. Remember the pictures? If I was to get a pizza and I was to divide it into 10 pieces, there's 5 there, there's 5 there. I've got 10 slices of pizza, not very well done. But if I've still got all 10 of them, it's one whole pizza. Look at the second line down here. This is our new learning today. We're not thinking about tenths anymore. We're thinking about hundredths. Can you see the pattern? Some of the number line's missing, but some of it is there. So let's have a look at what they've given us. They've given us something. They've given us 20 hundredths. 20 over 100 is 20 hundredths. And look, 20 hundredths lines up with 2 tenths. So they are the same. 2 tenths is the same as 20 hundredths. And if we go back to our analogy about money, if we have no pounds, decimal point, 2, 0, no pounds, 0.20, we know that the 20 is the same as 20 pence. And 20 pence just put a P there, is 20 parts of 100. So 100 is the whole and 20 parts is 20p. So we've got 20 hundredths here, we've got 30 hundredths, we've got 70 hundredths. So if there's 20 hundredths there, I think we're going to have 10 here, and so on. 40 there. A little bit hard to write in. Let's see what they say. Exactly. So we're counting in even steps along a number line from 0 to 1, starting from the left-hand side of the screen to the right. Tenths we know, and in the hundredths we have 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths. I want you to say them out loud as I circle them in this brick red colour. So we have, and this one, saying them out loud each time I circle. That was 50 hundredths. Hundredths. Very good. Okay, now here you can see a 100 square, and part of it has been coloured in. The question is asking us how many hundredths are represented on the 100 square. How many? And I can see they've given us 3 potential answers here. They're saying it's going to be perhaps 92, 82, or 18. So I'm thinking the ones represented on the 100 square are going to be the green ones, because most squares or bits of paper we have start off as being white. So I think we've got to count the green ones. You know, when you're doing a 100 square from your work with the number blocks and the Dean's cubes, which we looked at the other day. Where are they? Here. We know that these represent 10, and that the blue one here, well, not me, but the blue one here represents 100. Because if I line all these 10s up here in front of the 100, I will end up with 110. 10 tens equals 100. So knowing that information, how is that going to help us today answer this? Well, if I count the columns, we know that each of these is a 10. 10, count with me, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I've got 80 so far, and 1, 2. 82. So the correct answer, I think, is B, 82 hundredths. Yeah, and it is. They've got it in red as well. So that's how you work out those. True or false? Oh, I like a true or false. So the answer to this question is going to be true or it's going to be false. That is your answer. The following sequences are correct. So we've got some sequences. We're going to say them out loud and say them out loud again. 68 hundredths, 69 hundredths, 7 tenths, 71 hundredths. What do you think? True or false? Well, to find out what 7/10 is, we're going to have to find out how many hundredths that is. We're going to have to change it into hundredths. So, to find how many of these 7/10, how 7/10 would be represented in hundredths, I could go over to my place value on MathSpot. We looked at MathSpot last time. Here you can see I've got my ones, I've got tenths, and this is a new one for today, hundredths. If you haven't hundredths on your screen, you'll have to click on this one and make sure that you go to 0.01, 0.01 here, and you'll have hundredths. Now, we're interested in knowing how many tenths because I've got tenths and I want to know what hundredths they would make. So if I get rid of those over here and I just click on this one, the tenth, and I ask it to exchange it, look at that. It has changed into hundredths. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 hundredths there. Yeah, it's 10 times bigger. So 7/10 would be the same as 70 hundredths. So these are going to be the same, 70 hundredths. Now if I look at my sequence, I've got 68 hundredths, 69 hundredths, 70 hundredths, 71 hundredths. So it's going on the numerator, 68, 69, 70, 71. I think that's a good sequence. Let's look at B below us here. We've got 93 hundredths, 92 hundredths, 91 hundredths, then 8/10. Again, I want to change these tenths here into hundredths. So it's going to get bigger again. It's going to be 10 times bigger. So the equivalent fraction would be 80 hundredths. Now I can count through my number line and say 93 hundredths, 92 hundredths, 91 hundredths, 80 hundredths. The hundredths now stay the same, so we're just counting down 93, 92, 91, 80. I think there's a problem here because after 91 would normally become 90 if we're counting backwards. So let's have a look at that. Yeah. It should be 9/10 or 90 hundredths. So this one is true, but this one is false. Okay. Varied fluency. Match the hundredths to an equivalent tenth. Match the hundredths to a different equivalent tenths. Remember when we say the word equivalent, we are talking about things being equal. We're doing a matching task, so we've got 3 pictures at the top here, and we've got to match them to the 3 fractions at the bottom. The fractions are all in tenths. But you'll notice that the pictures are all in hundredths. What you've got is 300 squares. Well, this one over here is going to be 10 hundredths. So I'll write that like that. B, if I count them again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tens are 50. 50 hundredths. And then C, if I count these, count with me, it is 'Did you get that? Pause the video if you need to and count again. Check I'm right. I have 90. 9 lots of columns will be 90 hundredths. So if I've got 10 hundredths, 50 hundredths, and 90 hundredths, can you see how they're going to match up? Exactly. 90 hundredths is the same as 9/10. 50 hundredths is the same as 5/10. And finally, 10 hundredths is the same as 1/10. Okay, these are equivalent fractions. I can see a pattern there. Yep, there we go. We got it right. Complete the missing values. Remember we did this before? These are called part-whole models. Part-whole models. So just to remind you, if I've got one circle and two other circles going into it, and this is 3 and this is 4, these are the two parts. This is part and this is part, and the whole is going to be, do you know? 7, exactly. So let's have a look at this. It's asking us for the part-whole model for this fraction. This is the total 26 hundredths. 26 hundredths. And it's telling us part of it is 2/10. What would the other part be? Have you got it? It's going to be 6 hundredths. 6 hundredths. 2/10 and 6 hundredths make 26 hundredths. There you go. Reasoning 1. It says here, Archie has completed this section of a number line below. Is he correct? And explain how you know. Okay, I can see that it starts with 46 hundredths. And in fact, most of them are hundredths. So the number at the bottom is 100. These are all hundredths. These are hundredths. We've just got 5/10 there. Do you remember what 5/10 is in hundredths? That's right. It is going to be equivalent or the same as 50 hundredths. That's the pattern. So let's go 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 52, 53. Is he correct or not? What do you think? Just read them out to yourself now. That's right. There is something missing. He has missed out number 51, 51 hundredths. He's done 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and then he's gone straight to 52. So we need to explain how we know. Archie is incorrect. That means he's wrong because he has missed out 51 hundredths, which would go in there, but he didn't write it out properly. Okay, time for you to do your work. Remember, I'm going to show you 2 sets of work. It gets harder as we go along. So the first set of work is called the spicy work. And if you do that, when you finish, you move on to the spicier work. So we have spicy, then spicier. At that point, if you've had enough, you can stop. But if you want to go on to the spiciest, then watch some more examples and have a go. Okay, so this is the spicy work. We have question 1A, 1B, 2A and 2B. Pause the video and have a go at this now. And we have the spicy work, the second part. This is still the spicy work, 3A, 3B, 4A and 4B. Have a go at those now. Okay, we've done the spicy work, well done. Now we have the spicier work. So it's getting a little bit harder now. Spicier work. Have a look at 5A, 5B, 6A and 6B. Have a go at those. Pause the video for this. Okay, I hope that worked out for you. And if you would like to stay and do some of the spiciest challenge, if you want to, then carry on. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. For those of you who are staying, let's have a look at some problems. Problem solving 1. It says, match the child to the correct number. So we've got 3 children. Think about these children. We've got Zeta, Callum and Ruby. Zeta has 3/10. and 2/100ths. Callum has 4/10 and 3/100ths, and Ruby has 4/10 and 13/100ths. Let's have a look. Zeta has 3/10 and 2/100ths. 3/10 and 2/100ths. So if we're going to split these up into their tenths and hundredths, this one has got 4/10 and 3/100ths. This one will have 3/10 and 2/100ths. And finally, we've got 5. Get rid of that little line. 5/10 and 3/100ths. So we can say that zeta is going to be B. Zeta, I would say, is B. Callum, 4/10 and 3/100ths. That's going to be letter A over here. And finally, Ruby, 4/10 and 13/100ths. She might have to be C. Because in fact, 13/100ths is the same as 1/10 and 3/100ths. So it is in fact C. There we go. And there's some explanation. Different problem. You have 2/10 and 9/100ths already. How many more tenths and hundredths do you need to make a whole one? Record your answer as a fraction. You have 2/10 and 9/100ths already. How many more tenths and hundredths do you need to make a whole one? Well, I could show this on here. It would help me. 2/10 and 9/100ths. Remember, you can also use these. You could say, well, if I tidy this up, get me out of the way. I've got 2/10 here, and I've got 9/100ths. If I get 1/100th and put it up there, I can click the copy button. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that right? Let's have a look. 2/10 and 9/100ths. Yep, that's good. 2/10 and 9/100ths there. How many more would I need to make a whole one? That's my whole one. So if I've got 9 there, I know that another 100 will make 10. So I've got 10/100ths. So with 1/10 there, 1/10 there, and all of these ones, oops, I can't group them. Come back. I know I've got 3/10, so I need 7/10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7/10 and 1/100th added to my 2/10 and these hundredths here should give me a whole 100, a complete one. So let's count up. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So the extra bit I needed to add on to my 29 is actually 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 71. I think it's 71. Just pop that down there. Woo! Come on, pen. You can do better than that. 71. And it says write your answer as a fractione. So it's 71/100ths. That would be a correct answer. Or I could write it as 7/10, because that would be 1. See if I can do that a little bit better. Colour it in a bit better. Change my pen. Get a slightly thicker pen. 7/10, well, this would be 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, and 1/100th. 100th is just one of those little squares. And if I take a blue one, for example, and this is what they told us we have already, we have 2/10 and 9/100ths. So here's 1/10, 2/10, and then 9/100ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It makes one whole. So my 7/10 and 1/100th, which can also be written as 71/100ths, it's the same thing, added to the 2/10 and the 9/100ths makes one whole. So I'm saying that. There we go, 7/10 and 1/100th, or 71/100ths. Fantastic. They've coloured theirs in the other way around to me. If I was to turn that square over, like this, turn it round, they'd get something just like mine. Very good. So, spiciest work, if you're still with me, well done. And we have some questions for you now. This is the spiciest work. You've got questions 4A, 4B, 5A, 5B. Read the questions carefully twice before you try to answer them. And finally, for the spiciest, last two questions, 6A and 6B. Pause the video, read the question carefully, and answer it properly. Well done, Year 4. Well done, Year 3.